This is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla in the new Full Battle Rattle studios.
It is about the people. I will live, I will die for the people of America, whatever I can do to help. And this party that we call the Tea Party, this movement, as I say, is the future of politics.
Showing our true spirit after weeks of enduring disruptors and rioters, not to mention people dressed as private parts. Finally, we have positive demonstrations to look forward to. The Spirit of America rallies are taking shape, and they will take place soon. Today, Debbie Dooley, a national co-founder of the Tea Party movement and a key organizer of the Spirit of America rallies, joins us to discuss the February 27th and March 4th events across the country designed to show support for our 45th president, Donald J. Trump. Debbie Dooley coming up. Also, one of the state organizers will be here, Tricia Cunningham, who is spearheading the efforts in Pennsylvania, stops by. Plus, we'll have the latest national and Alaska headlines in Sarah Palin News. We'll visit the Crow's Nest with Tanya Crow in California. Also from the Golden State, Kelly Carlson is on target. The Millennial Forecast with Sarah Hagmeyer is on the way from New Jersey, and a brand new installment of Liberty and Legacy with Tamara Colbert coming up from Texas. Welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. The Palin Update is sponsored by Full Battle Rattle. Full Battle Rattle, helping veterans suffering from combat-related disabilities through the healing power of music. Learn more at facebook.com/Full Battle Rattle ABQ. Right now, we welcome in Debbie Dooley. She is spearheading this incredible effort, Spirit of America. Debbie, thanks for being with us today.
Well, it is a pleasure to be on your show.
We were so excited to see what you're doing, and I want you to tell everybody all about it. But my first question to you is, with this rally, I mean, obviously, it's your support of our president, but did these counter rallies really rally up so much that you wanted to have some positive feel out there and let people know that we are behind this man? Because I know watching these ridiculous events that went on post-inauguration, you know, a lot of people were sitting back going, I don't think like that. These people don't speak for me. And meantime, the Trump people are busy going to work and, you know, doing their everyday thing. So did that have part, in the decision-making here?
It definitely was. We were sitting back. Most Trump supporters were sitting back and, you know, celebrating the victory. And then when we saw the often violent protest of the left, a very negative protest, we decided that, hey, I'm one of the national founders, co-founders of the Tea Party movement, and I received emails, phone calls from people saying, what are we going to do? We need to do something. So I approached and spoke with different contacts in the states, and we decided that we would hold Spirit of America rallies, and these would be very positive, upbeat, patriotic rallies so people can let Americans and the world know that we support Donald Trump. We're the forgotten voice that has been left behind with these bad trade and immigration agreements, and that we love our president and we're standing by our president. And we want to provide quite a contrast to the rallies that the left is having. And, you know, we won the election. We're the same people that fought for Donald Trump and helped elect him. And if the left thought for 1 minute that we were going to sit back and not fight for our president and fight for his agenda, then they were very sadly mistaken.
You know, I mentioned to my children this past weekend after the president spoke in Florida, I said, you want to know that Obama's officially gone. I mean, you had a rally where Donald Trump is praising and saying that we need to cherish our law enforcement. And then you have our First Lady, Melania Trump, saying the Lord's Prayer. Imagine Barack and Michelle pulling that off. I couldn't.
Well, I can remember President Obama talking bad about Christians. So, no, they definitely would not have pulled that off. But something you guys should be very proud of. We received, there was an article that ran in Breitbart, we received over 2,000 emails and messages in 48 hours. The majority were from women. They were from women saying, we want to step forward. We want to actually hold a rally. We want to organize a rally. We have rallies now, and we're adding more in 34 states, plus the Washington, D.C., and we have 45 state contacts. These are people that somebody interested in holding a rally could contact. Out of the 45 state contacts, 27 are women. So women are willing to step forward and tell the left with their Women's March, you do not speak for us, we stand by the president. And I think this is very telling. And all these people that are speaking of wanting to hold rallies, 30% have never organized a rally in their lifetime. A sleeping giant has been awakened, and we're willing to fight and support our president and fight for his agenda.
I think it makes it even more impressive. I mean, here you say people who've never organized a rally, organizing a rally for a man who never held public office before this, right? So, I mean, I think it kind of goes hand in hand. But, yeah, well, we were very impressed. You know, Governor Palin posted a link to that Breitbart article on her new website on sarahpalin.com. And, you know, just so happy to hear about this. Now, tell us how people can find out more if they want to get involved, and what are the two big dates?
Well, the two big dates are either February 27th, which is the 8th anniversary of the Tea Party movement, or March 4th, which is a Saturday. We're very organized in the states. This is a rally, so the forgotten voice, the Main Street patriots out there that supported Donald Trump, whether you be Democrat, Republican, Independent, or no party affiliation like the Independents, can come out and let your voice be heard. We've heard from Democrats that plan on attending the rallies. We're very organized in the states, and I would advise everyone to go to mainstreetpatriots.us, mainstreetpatriots.us. We have a lot of information on our website. We even have step-by-step on how to organize a rally. And by the way, we definitely need a Spirit of America rally in Alaska. We have one in Hawaii, but we don't have one in Alaska yet. And if you want to email us, mainstreetpatriots@gmail.com. This is a chance for our voice to be heard. We can rise up and counter the left and what they're doing and show such a big contrast. And we're asking people to bring garbage bags so we can make sure we pick up our trash and we leave our areas, rally areas, clean, unlike the left and some of the ways that they have left their rally areas full of trash.
I know. I'm sure you caught that video, right? The people who talk ad nauseum about global warming and protecting Mother Earth, and meantime they left all their junk, and then there's a video of a guy in a Make America Great Again hat picking it all up.
I know. I thought that was phenomenal, and we're getting the word out. It is it's incredible. MainStreetPatriots.us, our website. We're averaging 9,000 to 11,000 hits per day on our website, so people are waking up, and this is important. If everybody assumed that just because we helped elect Donald Trump president, that we can sit back and enjoy our victory, the left has shown us that we are going to have to fight for our president, and we are going to have to fight for his policies, because there will be resistance. And one of the things, as a national co-founder of the Tea Party movement, that really irritated me when, they started saying, hey, we're the left equivalent of the Tea Party. Well, at zero of our Tea Party rallies did you see speakers talk about wanting to blow up the White House. Our rallies were family friendly, that respected law enforcement, and they were calm, peaceful, nothing like the rallies that we're seeing from the left. And I think it is quite a big contrast with the way the left covered the Tea Party and the way they're covering these anti-Trump rallies, and it shows their extreme bias.
And your Tea Party ties are really important here, too, because not only have they tried to, like you say that the Tea Party has acted like these groups, but also a lot of people, even on the Republican side, have told us for months and even years now that the Tea Party's dead. We know Governor Palin doesn't believe that. And obviously, from these numbers and from all of the Tea Party folks who are backing this endeavor, it couldn't be further from the truth. And I tell you what, if the Tea Party were dead, Donald Trump wouldn't be president right now.
I totally agree. And I endorsed Donald Trump in January of 2016. I wrote an article in Breitbart. I was very, very glad to see Governor Palin endorse him as well. I think her endorsement was key. And I just think that this is the next step of the Tea Party, is that this is a rally, this is a movement that will begin on, well, it actually began with Donald Trump, but this is a new movement that will begin on the 8th anniversary of the Tea Party movement, and it's an America First movement, a Main Street conservative movement that will begin on February 27th. And I think that's indicative. I mean, just like you said, if the Tea Party were no longer influential, Donald Trump never would have been elected president. And I think that shows our clout, that we're still there. And not only are we still there, we're actually reaching out to independents and Democrats and bringing them in and finding ways to work together. So I think it's very strong now, the Tea Party is.
Well, Debbie, we appreciate your work and appreciate what you're doing here, and I love that you endorsed him in January of 2016, as did the governor, as did myself on this program, and we had him on the program a few months before, but we're kind of waiting for Governor Palin to officially get on board. But it's very exciting. It's wonderful to see the pace that this man is working at for us, for we the people, and especially after what we endured for 8 years. And it's great to hear those words, Tea Party again, and to see what's happening with this huge rally coming up all over the country on 2 dates. We will spread the word on this, and we hope to talk to you after, if we could.
Oh, yeah, this is just the beginning. Make no mistake, we're here to stay. This is just the beginning. We are going to have to fight for our president and fight for his agenda, for an American First agenda, because the left has shown they're willing to take to the streets and fight and oppose President Trump. We need to be willing to take to the streets in support of our president in a positive, patriotic, and uplifting manner, so we can show the real contrast.
Debbie Dooley, great interview. Now let's say hello to one of the state directors of Spirit of America. We head to Pennsylvania to welcome Tricia Cunningham to the program. Tricia, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So this is exciting. I mean, especially after all the rallies, if you will, whatever you want to call them, that went on. With
I call them riots.
Yeah, the pink. You never thought they could make Occupy people look good, but in some cases they did. I mean, I tell you, just and you saw so. I love that so many women are involved in what you're doing, because obviously those women didn't speak for people like you. So talk about that and tell us how things are looking in your state of Pennsylvania.
Okay, so first off, we are looking fantastic here in Pennsylvania, and we were the defining state in the last election, which was amazing. And as far as the rallies go, when I was asked to kind of spearhead this position, they said, "Hey, can you put a rally together here in Pennsylvania? We'd like to make you the state organizer." Yeah, no problem. I can get a few hundred people, a few thousand people, no big deal. You know, within 4 days, I had 37,000 emails of people requesting to either help or attend a rally here just in Pennsylvania, the itty bitty Pennsylvania. And we have a plethora of them from the East Coast to the West Coast in Pennsylvania. We're waiting on permits, so we can't really talk about a lot of them that are going on. But we have like Valley Forge. We're talking about, Westmoreland County, which put Trump over the top here in Pennsylvania. We have the courthouse that we're doing. It's just amazing. And it's men, women, children. I cannot wait to see everybody just waving that flag on March 4th.
Well, that enthusiasm really is like, I mean, nothing I've seen in my life. I was too little, with Reagan to remember that type of what the pulse was. But, I mean, even now, the man's been in office now almost a month. And every day, I kid you not, and I drive a lot, but every day with the stickers on the car, we are still getting the horns honked, the thumbs up, people fired up. And then they drive by and don't have a thing on their car because, it's an older woman or it's someone who just, felt worried because of, the violence and the bullying we've seen. But when they see this, they're so fired up. And then this rally takes it a step, further to say, hey, now you can come out, wave a flag, be an American, and show this president how much we support him. And I think the reason you got all those emails, people are just, so happy to say, hey, they're thinking like me on this. This is great.
I absolutely agree with you. And, I did about 189 interviews in the last 10 to 12 months of my life, all across the world, all across the nation. And one thing that I kept telling everybody is what I want out of a Trump campaign, throughout the whole deal. Trump campaign, Trump election, Trump victory, and an American victory is I want this entire country to look like it did on September 12th. 2001, where we all stood up with flags and pride, and the American flag was something that people respected, and it didn't matter whether they were a Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever. It never voted in their entire life. We have pride in being an American, and you know what? We got it. President Trump, and I love saying it, President Trump, President Trump, President Trump. Hey, hello.
It's amazing.
We worked so hard for this. He worked equally hard for us, and that's what I love. He worked just as hard. He gave up so much. He gave up everything that we gave up to get him elected because he says it all the time. He's the messenger. He's the messenger for our voice, and I love that.
It is just to hear you say President Trump, and when people say it, I'm so scarred from Obama that still when I just hear people say the president on television, for a moment, I cringe. And then I go, oh, wait, they're talking about Trump. And, the same thing with Twitter. When I see POTUS or FLOTUS, I say, oh, and then I go, oh, no, wait, it's Melania. I can eat a good lunch. So it's really, it's just that great feeling. And, we talked about this on the program over the last few weeks. In my family alone, my grandmother, 92, fired up for Trump. My son, 6 now, but 5 during the campaign, fired up for Trump. It's just been everywhere, every age, gender, size, shape, whatever. And it's that awesome, like you said, that feeling, that American feeling. And I think September 12th, 2001 is a great example. And going back to the fact that the women who have spearheaded this event, and also the fact that putting them over the top. We talked to your colleague earlier today on the show, Debbie Dooley, and who endorsed Trump in January of 16, as did Governor Palin, and people like yourself, Tricia. So talk about that when you see the pink hats walking around, and who obviously aren't speaking for people like you. I love how they let their children wear these things, and then the men forget it. We know they can't throw a baseball, but what?
Yeah, you have the perfect person.
What do you think about that when you see that, and then the fact that you get to go and do this, and like you said, the red, white, and blue, and talking about what our country's really based on and why we're so proud of this man, and because it's not just this man, it's this man who is for we the people. And as a woman, how does that make you feel?
Oh, okay. So it empowers me. I'm not a bra burner, never been. And it was ironic that I was at the inauguration. Thank you to the Trump campaign that invited me, so I got to do all the fun stuff. I got to go to the ball, this, that, and the other. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever you want to call it, I got to go out in the middle of the debacle the next day with all of the women that were trying to represent us women. That was, to say the least, the most disrespecting thing that I've ever seen in womanhood. For my children, my grandchildren, things like that. I have 5 grandchildren, by the way. And that was so disrespecting and disheartening when I was walking down the street. And we were trying to go to the museums and experience Washington, D.C. after the inauguration.
Right.
We had to dress in pink and kind of hide ourselves from the Trump campaign so we didn't get beat up or whatever. And we had to kind of go in the crowd to get through it, to get across the street, and I'm looking at people holding a sign, and I looked at this one gentleman, and I said, wait a second, let me ask you a question. You can't even spell fascism. But do you know what the name or what the definition is? And he couldn't answer me. And then another one said xenophobe. Do you understand what the definition is? And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, seriously. And the worst part was the 6- and 7-year-olds and 9-year-olds that were being wrapped around by women, I don't know, mothers, or whatever, but or women that were wrapping their heads with these signs, like caution tape around their heads to march that said, F you, Trump. Like, these are kids.
Oh, yeah.
Abuse as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
It was horrible.
Absolutely.
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible.
And, my 8-year-old, she put it well. She said, Dad, what are they doing ruining my favorite color here with pink? They could have picked a worse color. I said, well, just make sure you got a pink Trump shirt. You're good. And, xenophobe, they probably think that's the 4th member of Destiny's Child that Beyonce kicked out. But
my husband asked me that. He was like, hey, they keep calling me a xenophobe. What is that? Like, seriously. He was like, what is a xenophobe? And I was like, it's talking about against a religion. He goes, what, the one that the radical Islamic terrorists hijacked?
Yeah, right. As soon as you explain it,
you're like, come on.
I love it.
That's that mustard.
Well, speaking of our great hillbillies and the parts of Pennsylvania that did put him over the top, Governor Palin put a lot of time in PA, and even though she was muzzled by a lot of the campaign and wasn't, out there saying the things she's saying now and wanted to say and would have probably helped, as opposed to, McCain
I love her.
telling everybody how wonderful Obama was throughout the entire process. She spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania, and a lot of people said, well, that's that fool's gold. You just can't get it, and Michigan and Wisconsin as well. But speaking to you as a Keystone Stater, just how extra sweet, too, because you put that effort in, right? You do everything you can, and then you lose by 12 points or something, and you say, what's going on? Where that still exists, unfortunately, obviously, in California and New Jersey and other places. But for Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan to do this for President Trump, it's just got to make it, because, listen, this wasn't a bunch of Republicans only. This wasn't a bunch of Tea Parties. These were Democrats. These were independents.
That came over.
Right. These were people that were never involved who said, hey, I'm sick and tired of the government thinking that I work for them instead of vice versa. And they said, you know what? Not only do I not care how this guy talks, I like how he talks.
Well, he doesn't just talk; he walks the talk. That's the thing. You want to talk about somebody that says, "Hey, I'm going to do something." Boom. People have habits in life, and the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's how our government has been. But this guy shows up and says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to break the habit." And you know how you break the habit? You do something different. He did. That's where we're at, and I love it. And we all love it, and we're tired of it. The government, the last 8 years, they've been trying to put us underneath of a thumb to say, hey, it's government control, put all these regulations down. Well, now everybody has to be underneath of the government's control and underneath their thumb. That's done. It's gone. Bye. See you. And that's why you don't hear about Obama's out there freestyling and doing his thing, and Hillary, God only knows, thank God, stay out of our way, whatever. But then we have a man out there that is a billionaire that is sweating his suit off today in Florida, and they're doing all these things, he is doing everything he said he was going to do. He gave up everything. He gave up everything he worked for in his entire lifetime to do something for our country. And if you don't support that, there is a one-way ticket out of this country, and I'll pay for it. I promise you I'll come up with the funding for it.
Well, and if that doesn't, and we've talked about this so much on this program, if that doesn't show how genuine he is from the start, I mean, why would anyone want this otherwise, other than the fact that they really felt they could do well for this? I mean, Washington, reluctant leader, same deal. Trump could have run years ago, but like you said, putting family at risk, putting himself at risk. He's 70 years old, and he's got the energy of, the Energizer Bunny, as we've said so many times. So, my old football coaches would always tell me, hey, you go to bed, you visualize what's going to happen the next day. If this happens, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? How are you visualizing this rally in Pennsylvania? What do you think's going to happen? And because you got to be, I know you're so pumped about it. How do you think it's going to be? And how can people who may be listening from your state or Jersey or Delaware who want to go to PA, or if they're closer, how can they get involved?
Okay, so this is amazing. I don't care if somebody comes out of their front doorstep on March 4th and says at noon, I support Trump, get on Facebook Live, do anything you can, take a Facebook page, whatever. come into a rally, and I'll tell you, they're going to be huge. They're going to be absolutely huge here in Pennsylvania. What I really want people to acknowledge is that we're getting out there to do a rally to make sure that we counteract all of the negativity that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And we are doing this in a peaceful perspective, saying, hey, you know what, we're getting out there and we're supporting the president, and we're supporting the agendas, and you know what we're doing? We're supporting America. It's Tea Party 2.0, I guess, at this point. But what we really want is people getting out there and supporting themselves, supporting their agenda. And the majority of the United States, no matter what party you're affiliated with, you want better jobs, you want secure borders, you want, a better future for your children and your grandchildren, as well as I do. I have 5 grandchildren. This is what I'm doing this for. I don't go out there every day for a paycheck because I get none. This is a volunteer effort, and we all need to unify and say, we are supporting unification of the United States of America, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your creed is, no matter what your color is, because we're all a different shade of beige. We all support the United States of America because we live here, and we pledge allegiance to the flag, and we will sing the national anthem on March 4th at noon all across the United States. All across the United States.
Tricia, you remind me of Diamond and Silk. You're very low energy. You're not excited at all.
Not at all.
You're not into this at all. And
I love those girls. We are homegirls. We've hung out a couple times.
You're perfect for this gig, and Pennsylvania's in good hands with you.
It's not a gig. It's a responsibility.
It is, but it's everything. It's all of it, because you know what? Aren't we smiling a lot? I mean, I'm enjoying the heads exploding and all the nonsense. I mean, I hate the treatment of the president, but for those of us that know and those of us that are catching on, I mean, they've almost clinched 2020 already because of this ridiculous behavior. So
he clinched it today in Florida. Honestly.
Yeah. Well, you mean supporting law enforcement and having your wife say the Lord's Prayer? Obama and Michelle did that a lot, right?
Oh, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America.
Amazing. Tricia, that's
I love it.
You're a wonderful guest, and we're glad you could spend some time with us. We hope to talk to you again sometime after the rallies, okay?
Absolutely. You know what? You have a Trumptastic day. Trumptastic week, Trumptastic year, Trumptastic life.
Trumptastic 8 years at least, and yes, and life. I like that. I like the way you put it.
Trumptastic future.
And yes, and of course, you are representing Trump, Pennsylvania very well.
Thank you very much.
That's the one I coined. So you had Trumptastic, I got Trump, Pennsylvania. But either way, we #city, baby.
I'm the messenger. I'm the messenger.
For more information on these amazing rallies, visit mainstreetpatriots.us. Now it's time for Sarah Palin News, headlines, and more about Governor Palin. Governor Palin and family root on Todd Palin in another Iron Dog race. Palin makes a statement on the beautiful relationship between the U.S. and Israel. Palin gives the real deal on the General Flynn resignation. The governor calls out American enemies in the State Department looking to undermine peace. Do you remember miracles? Yes, says Governor Palin, as she looks back at the 1980 U.S. hockey team. One of the Palin kids has a run-in with a very inappropriate, unhinged, far-left liberal teacher. Now that teacher is feeling the wrath of the Mama Grizzly. Palin backs President Trump after he announces he will not attend the White House Correspondents Association dinner. And Governor Palin features my piece on NBA owner Mark Cuban and how he and his basketball buddies just can't get over the fact that Trump won. Please check out Cuban Jersey Crisis. Thank you, Governor Palin, for showcasing my article. To read about all of these stories, visit the Mama Grizzly Radio Facebook page. To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety and to read her devotionals, visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page. Follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA. And don't miss the new sarahpalin.com. Now let's head to the crow's nest. Here's Tanya Crow.
Thanks, Kevin. You know, I sing to my daughter almost every night, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, as one of the lullabies that helps to relax her and put her into a sleepy mode. And I feel like we are living the Wizard of Oz and what it means to confront fears, real or unreal, and overcome them and develop true courage. And we get back home to that safe and secure place of truth and virtue. And it's so worth it because this country, the United States of America, is that haven for so many people. And the preservation of that is so crucial. And I'm so happy to be a part of that movement, that desire, that intention, and to teach my daughter that by example and being fearless towards the opposition. This is Tanya Crow with Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tanya Crow on Mama Grizzly Radio. More from the Crow's Nest next week. Now, on target with Kelly Carlson.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm here again with my husband, Tracker Dan, to help go over the new California firearms legislation because it's great to me. And for those of you in California, I hope this helps, and anyone else outside of California, I hope it's entertaining. Okay, so we're going to go over pistols. Last time we went over rifles. So I'm going to start with the new legislation. The newest version of the law will revise the definition of assault weapon to mean the following for pistols. A semi-automatic pistol that does not have a fixed magazine but has any of the following. A threaded barrel, capable of accepting a flash suppressor, forward hand grip, or a silencer. Notice how they use the word silencer instead of suppressor. It's all this like fear tactics written in this law. Okay, honey, so what was that?
So threaded barrel can be used to attach a suppressor. It can also be attached for people who want to collect all their cleaning solvents. They can attach a bottle or something like that to catch all the spray that normally comes out when you're cleaning your stuff. And it gives a little extra length to the barrel, so some people use longer threaded barrels for accuracy, because we can't have suppressors in California, so there's already a law against suppressors. So,
well, notice how they write this: a threaded barrel, comma, accepting or capable of accepting a flash suppressor, comma, forward hand grip, comma, or silencer.
So you would never have a forward hand grip attached to your threaded barrel.
Exactly.
So I'm worried about the wording in this, that hopefully they don't mean if your weapon if your pistol has a rail on it that can accept a light, but it can also accept a forward grip handle. Does that mean you cannot own that pistol because it's got a rail on it? And people need to have weapons lights if they're going to use their pistols for self-defense at night.
I mean, they could have just said a threaded barrel.
Yeah.
Or forward hand grip. Two separate things.
Yeah.
But they add in.
And then on the second line, they even address it again. They say a second hand grip. So
under B.
Anything that has more than one hand grip is...
They write this so the person who doesn't understand firearms thinks all of this stuff is so lethal and so scary and so, nefarious.
Yeah.
That's how they write it. Okay, so we said B, second hand grip, even though that was addressed under A. C, a shroud that is attached to or partially or completely encircles the barrel that allows the bearer to fire the weapon without burning the bearer's hand, except a slide that encloses the barrel. I don't even know what that means.
Okay, so they make some shrouds that you can slip your pistol into that have folding stocks and different things like that to turn it more into like something that you could use for room clearing and different things like that. So I can see, what they're going after there.
But how many people does that affect at all?
Well, anybody who has bought one of those type of shrouds.
Is that common? I just don't know what it is.
Well, it would also apply to, like Kel-Tec made a pistol AR pretty much, but it doesn't have anything around the barrel, but you can buy a shroud, like a hand protector that goes around the barrel, so you could get a second hand on to control the weapon better. So they're basically
that's what they're trying to
making
get rid
those
of.
all.
I see.
Null and void.
Okay.
Yep.
They really don't like that secondary grip, do they?
No.
Okay. D, the capacity to accept a detachable magazine at some location outside of the pistol grip.
So this is in retaliation to all the people who tried to get around the short-barreled laws by having like an AR pistol. So it doesn't have a shoulder stock on it. Some of them have those SIG grip things that can attach to your forearm.
Is that what I shot in Georgia?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're trying to get away, make it so nobody can actually own an AR pistol or anything that's similar to that, where the magazine doesn't go in the bottom of the handle, it goes into the action somewhere else besides the handle.
Okay. Last part. A semi-automatic pistol with a fixed magazine that has the capacity to accept more than 10 rounds.
So they're just making sure that anything that can take more than 10 rounds is not allowed. So
all of this, tell me if I'm wrong. Now pistols fall under assault weapons?
Yeah, I don't recall them ever falling under assault weapons before.
I thought the military only had technically assault weapons, but
yeah,
that's applying too much logic here.
Yeah, and a big point to this is that anytime you try and work around laws, they're going to plug those holes eventually. So it's better to put the people in power who make the laws so your Second Amendment right is not infringed ever. Instead of having to try and play these games and think you're tricky, and then they shut off your trickiness, and now you got to do something else. It's just it's a waste of time in the long run.
Cool. Well, thanks, honey. I appreciate it. So this is Kelly Carlson and her husband again, Tracker Dan, with Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tune in for more On Target next week. It's time for the Millennial Forecast. Here's Sarah Hagmeyer.
Thanks, Kevin. This week, President Trump shared a list of fake news media networks banned from the White House. That's right, banned. These media outlets include The Guardian, BuzzFeed, which is an old-time favorite, quote-unquote, reputable news source for modern-day snowflakes on Facebook, also Politico, the failing New York Times, and of course, the fakest of them all, CNN. Finally, these no-good, deceitful, fake news outlets are getting a timeout, and it's a timeout they deserve. As Donald Trump said at CPAC, many of these groups are part of large media corporations that have their own agenda, and it's not your agenda, and it's not the country's agenda, it's their own agenda. They have a professional obligation as members of the press to report honestly, but as you saw throughout the entire campaign, and even now, the fake news doesn't tell the truth, and that was said by our president. And I can agree more. You think about it, throughout his entire campaign, they all said that he had no chance of winning, and look, here he's winning. And now, they keep on publishing stories and everything that are discrediting all the promises that he's actually fulfilling, because he's not a politician, and he's actually getting work done. And it's a shame that people don't realize and want to complain about this banning, that being a part of the White House press is a privilege. It's not a right. And unfortunately, millennials especially don't understand how the First Amendment doesn't apply to this situation, because reporters can still say what they want. However, we can forecast that more millennials won't understand why this happened, because more than likely the coddled generation can't comprehend how there are no entitlements or participation trophies in life, especially if you are a reporter purposely misreporting our president. For Mama Grizzly Radio, I'm Sarah Hagmeyer, and that was your Millennial Forecast.
And next week, we'll have a new edition of the Millennial Forecast right here on the Palin Update. Now, the Palin Update with Kevin Scholla presents Liberty and Legacy. Here's Tamara Colbert.
This week's Liberty and Legacy discussion is going to be about Texas independence. March 2nd is Texas Independence Day. And there's no doubt among the Convention of States activists in the state of Texas that there is a direct correlation between the fight we are engaged in nationally against the federal government and really what we did here in Texas 152 years ago. Over the last year, the grassroots have had a big shot in the arm by Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, emphasizing with us that Texas must lead on state sovereignty and using an Article 5 convention to return the stolen power back to our state. You know, William Travis at the Battle of the Alamo said never surrender, and he meant it. And we certainly mean it today in Texas, which is why we're taking nothing for granted and growing a massive grassroots army, because we also mean never again. Only this time, we do not ever want the federal government to take this much power away from our state or any of the other states. We're in a come-from-behind position, a deficit, right? We're kind of like the Patriots in the last Super Bowl, who have almost an insurmountable deficit to overcome. But we're going to have to overcome that to retake the ground in the form of the 10th Amendment rights and liberty stolen from the people by the federal government over the last 75 years. I can't say it enough. In 2015, the Convention of States resolution didn't even get out of committee in the Senate. This year, we have some new federalism champions that have emerged. It helped us get out of state affairs this year, and now we're going to a floor vote this week. Even though the Convention of States resolution is based off the sole authority given to state legislators by the Constitution, there is still opposition from people who are scared. I like to call them the anti-constitutionalists, and they come from the right and they come from the left. For the Senate committee hearing here in Texas, 64 of our Convention of States activists showed up. 28 of them testified in favor of our resolution. There were only 8 opposed. 8 opposed from both the right and the left. But interestingly, the right extreme and the left extreme had the same arguments. Very interesting. So for the last 2 years, based on what happened in 2015, the Convention of States Texas Grassroots have conducted more than 350 presentations around the state in every Senate district. One volunteer put more than 100,000 miles on his pickup truck, driving around giving presentations about Article 5 and the founder's tool that is the Convention of States to stop the runaway federal government, to put teeth back in the 10th Amendment, and to give the states their sovereignty back and the proper role of being the boss of the federal government. You know, the opposition during this time has been silent, almost non-existent, because they don't have the grassroots. It's literally a handful of fearmongers that are calling and screaming and intimidating legislators and staffers of this fear and misinformation. I can't figure out why legislators aren't asking them that, because it really doesn't take a rocket scientist to see, oh, the Convention of States project has had over 1,000 grassroots in Austin in the last couple of months, but the opposition has had less than a dozen. People, come on, have a clue, legislators. I mean, the grassroots, though, are more savvy, educated, and keen to the political machine in Austin than ever before. And not just Austin, all over this nation. Our Convention of States volunteers are paying very close attention to the senators this week, many whom have given their word to support us on the floor. Why don't these senators see our grassroots army as an ally, not an adversary? We were killed in Utah this week. We were killed in South Dakota last week because a handful of fear-mongering anti-constitutionalists would rather do nothing and let our country go the way of all the other failed republics than actually use a constitutional mechanism to fix the structural issues at the federal level. The funny thing is, Here in Texas, we've pretty much eliminated every argument. But these anti-constitutionalists, they only say one thing now, and that is that we don't know how to do a convention, and that's what's so scary. So this argument, by the way, has been debunked by Article 5 experts and constitutional attorneys multiple times over the last 5-6 years. But instead of reading real history, they're reading talking points. They should have studied history, because if they did, they would know that for Texas history, our state has a lot of experience with Article 5 type of conventions. And in fact, the Texas Declaration of Independence was the formal declaration for the Republic of Texas to leave Mexico following the Texas Revolution. And guess what? It was adopted along with our Texas Constitution at a, quote, constitutional convention on March 2nd in 1836 in Washington on the Brazos here in Texas. What was interesting is after this hard-fought battle against Mexico, Texas, all the municipalities in the state at that time, because it was not an incorporated official state, voted and sent commissioners from every municipality. A commissioner is essentially a delegate to this constitutional convention that was held at Washington on the Brazos River. For 2 weeks, those Texans who were representing their fellow citizens declared their independence and together created a constitutional republic based on the principles that unified all of them. It is time for Texas legislators and any legislator to stop operating from fear and misinformation. Don't you guys think? The opposition has had to create a boogeyman to be effective, just like the left. Again, interesting point number 2. The heroic effort to create the Republic of Texas didn't come from nothing, but rather out of a wealth of experience from what the United States had done through its state conventions and national conventions over 60 plus years. We have this light of experience to guide us. I am urging not just Texas legislators to look at that experience, but all legislators around the nation to be confident that you have been granted a unique and special authority according to the United States Constitution to make you a guardian of liberty for our nation right in your own state. I really want to know your feedback. You can tweet me at Tamara Colbert, hashtag Mama Grizz Radio this week. Now is the time for the people to lead. Now is the time for a convention of states, because we have a lasting solution we can put in place to fix the structural issues of the federal government that will last generations, not just a single administration. I'm Tamara Colbert for Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tamara Colbert in Texas. Tune in for more liberty and legacy next week. And to learn about Convention of States, head to conventionofstates.com. The Palin Update, including Liberty and Legacy, the Millennial Forecast, On Target, and the Crow's Nest, is on demand and available for download. So just head to mamagrizzlyradio.com, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Visit mamagrizzlyradio.com for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also, like Mama Grizzly Radio on Facebook and follow on Twitter at Mama Grizz Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Tamara Colbert, at Tanya Yoga 13, at S. Hagmeyer 2, and at FBR ABQ. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Go to Breitbart.com and search Kevin Scholla. I'm also contributing to sarahpalin.com. Please check out my latest piece this week. Honored to be working on the governor's new site. I want to thank Tamara Colbert, Tanya Crow, Kelly Carlson, Sarah Hagmeyer, and everyone here at Mama Grizzly Radio. Thanks to Debbie Dooley and Tricia Cunningham. And thank you for listening today. A special thanks to our sponsor, Full Battle Rattle. Visit facebook.com/Full Battle Rattle ABQ. The Palin Update is produced by Lena Anderson, the Andy L. Kramer, and Lori Ann Lewis. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update right here on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.